last week in the markets felt a bit like Back to the Future. Everyone's trying to figure out what happens next and, more importantly, when. Only instead of a DeLorean, investors are relying on every new headline to get there. And as it turns out, getting the timing exactly right is just as tricky in markets as it was for Doc Brown. Because, as he put it, if my calculations are correct, and that's usually where things get interesting. And there were plenty of calculations last week. Markets were once again focused on signals from the Federal Reserve, parsing every comment for clues on rate cuts. At the same time, geopolitical developments, from ongoing global conflicts to shifting alliances, continue to influence how and where capital is moving. You could see it across markets, not just in stocks and bonds, but more broadly. Subtle shifts happening across currencies, commodities, and interest rate sensitive areas. In the short run, that's how markets work. They react, sometimes quickly, sometimes unpredictably. But step back, and the bigger picture hasn't changed all that much. The economy is still growing, consumers are still spending, and unemployment is still low. In other words, we're not looking at a broken system, just one that's adjusting. And that creates an important distinction for investors. Because while headlines can move markets in the moment, they don't necessarily determine where they end up. That's driven by fundamentals, earnings, capital flows, and the cost of money, things that evolve more slowly, which is exactly why we structure portfolios the way we do, through what we call all-weather portfolios. The idea isn't to predict whether next week's headlines will be good or bad, because much like time travel, precision is harder than it looks. But our investment philosophy and the structure with which we build and manage your retirement portfolio gives us the flexibility to lean in, step back, or even play defense when markets call for it. The goal is simple: capture more of the upside when things are working and give back less when they're not. Because over time, that balance tends to matter a lot more than getting any single call exactly right. So yes, last week's headlines moved markets. They always do. But as Back to the Future reminded us, the future isn't something you perfectly predict. It's something you prepare for. We'll keep watching both the headlines and the horizon so you don't have to. We'll see you next week. But until then, I wish you love, joy, health, and prosperity.